My wife, Dorothy, looked me right in the eye and said she needed a separation. Her ex, Raymond, was completely ruined, and she said he needed her more than I did. I just felt the keys to the brand new BMW X7 in my pocket, the one I was about to surprise her with, and smiled. I wish you both the best. That was 2 months ago. Last night, she showed up on my doorstep, sobbing, with a group of angry people standing right behind her. You're not going to believe what happened when I opened that door. Stick around to hear the whole story. And if you believe in the power of true inspiration and finding your own worth, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, like this video, and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my situation. Welcome to Inspiration Seeker. You know, our life on the surface was the Austin dream. We had this comfortable, nice house in a quiet suburb. It wasn't flashy, not some glass wall monstrosity, but it was ours. It was solid. I worked from home. I'm a software architect, a senior software architect, which meant I made a very comfortable 6-figure salary. Life was stable. It was safe. It was a foundation I thought we were building our future on. But for Dorothy, for her, that foundation was a cage. She'd come home from her high-stress PR job, look at me in my same old t-shirt and jeans, still tapping away at my keyboard, and just sigh. That sigh, it was louder than a scream. "Is this it, Stephen?" she'd ask, staring out the window at our perfectly manicured lawn. "Is this all there is?" She called me unambitious, boring. The worst one was predictable. And then the comparisons would start. It was always Raymond, her college ex, the charismatic musician, the one with passion and fire, the one who, by all accounts, was currently couch surfing and hadn't released a song in 3 years. But in her mind, he was a struggling artist, a romantic poet. And me? I was just a cog in the machine, a human flatline. What she never knew, what she never bothered to ask, was what I was actually doing all those hours. That boring tech company I worked for, I wasn't just an employee. I was one of the original silent partners in the startup they had just acquired. The deal had closed 3 weeks prior. And the payout, it wasn't just good. It was, well, let's just say it was a billion-dollar acquisition level payout. My lockup period had just ended. The money was real wired and sitting in an account she knew nothing about. I was just waiting. I was waiting for the perfect moment to show her that the boring foundation I built was actually a launch pad. I thought it would fix everything. I thought it would finally make her see me. I had it all planned. But as it turned out, she had her own plans, too. My lockup period, it's a tech term. It just means that after the acquisition, there was a waiting period before the original partners, like me, could actually touch their new money. That period had just ended. And for weeks, while Dorothy was sighing and looking up Raymond's old band on the internet, I was planning. I was building. I'm an architect, after all. That's what I do. She wanted passion. She wanted excitement. She wanted a life that wasn't boring. Fine. I was about to give it to her. All those times she called me unambitious, I was quietly structuring a life that would make her head spin. I wasn't just going to be stable anymore. We were going to be impressive. First, the house. Our suburban box was gone. I'd finalized the purchase on a custom-built home on Lake Travis, all glass and steel, with a 3-car garage and an infinity pool that blended right into the water. It wasn't just a house. It was a statement. It was the kind of house she was always saving on her Pinterest boards, the kind she'd point out in magazines to say, "Can you imagine?" I could. I did. I bought it. And then the car. That was the immediate surprise. That was for today. It was her dream car. A brand new, top-of-the-line BMW X7. Not just any X7, the X7. Mineral white metallic, with a cognac leather interior. The one with the crystal shifter and the panoramic sky lounge roof. She'd pointed out just last month when a neighbor drove one home. Now that, she'd said, is a person who knows their worth. So I bought it. It was sitting in a private garage downtown, detailed and ready. The plan was simple. I'd tell her I was taking her to an early dinner. We'd walk to the garage. I'd hit the remote, the lights would flash, and I'd just hand her the keys. Then I'd say, "Why don't you drive us to our new home?" I had the keys, both sets of keys, right in the palm of my hand, pushed deep into my jeans pocket. They felt heavy. They felt real. I wasn't just giving her a car. I was giving her the life she always said I was incapable of providing. I was about to fix us. I walked into the living room, took a deep breath, and got ready to change her world. I walked into the living room, the keys heavy in my pocket. She was standing by the window, already dressed, which I thought was strange. She wasn't dressed for dinner, though. She was dressed for leaving. She had her good coat on, the one she said made her feel serious. "Dorothy," I said, "I was thinking we'd—" She turned around, and she didn't just look serious. She looked resolved. That's the word. Like a decision had been made, and I was just the last person to find out. "Stephen," she said, cutting me off, "I need a separation." Just like that. "No, we need to talk." "No, I'm unhappy." Just a clean, cold sentence. I'm an architect. My brain is all about structure, about foundations. And in that 1 second, I could feel the entire foundation of my life crack. The house on the lake, the BMW, the plans, they all just evaporated. I didn't say anything. I just stood there. She took my silence as agreement. Or maybe she just didn't care what I thought. She went on. "I've been talking to Raymond." Of course she had. "He's lost everything, Stephen," she said, and her voice actually softened, but not for me. It was for him. He lost his recording contract. He's about to lose his apartment. He's ruined. She looked at me, almost pleading for me to understand her next line. "He needs me." She paused, then looked around our boring living room at stable me. You're fine. You're stable. You'll be fine. You'll be fine." I felt the edges of the BMW key fob dig into my palm. I had two choices. I could beg. I could bribe. I could pull out the keys and shout, "Wait! Look! Look what I have! Look what I am! I'm not boring, I'm rich." But as I looked at her, so certain, so gone, a different feeling settled in. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was clarity. A cold, absolute clarity. You can't build a new house on a foundation that's already decided to crumble. My hand, still in my pocket, relaxed. I slid the keys back, deeper into the denim. I pulled my empty hand out and gave her a calm, small smile. "If that's what you feel you need to do," I said, my voice perfectly even, "I wish you both the best." Now, if you expect me to tell you that I broke down, that I ran after her, or that I sat in the dark for a week, you've come to the wrong channel. Dorothy's reaction to my calmness was interesting. She wanted to fight. She was bracing me to yell, to plead, to throw things. When I just agreed, it threw her off. For a second, she looked confused, maybe even a little insulted. I think she needed me to be a wreck. It would have justified her decision. But I just stood there, hands in my pockets, minus one set of keys. "That's it?" she asked. "Just, you wish me the best?" "I'm not going to hold you hostage, Dorothy," I said. "You're a free person. Go. Be happy." That, more than anything, seemed to seal it. She grabbed the bags that were already packed, a detail I had missed, and walked out the door. She didn't look back. The house was silent. Quiet. For the first time in months, it didn't feel boring. It felt peaceful. I let that peace settle for exactly 10 minutes. Then I went to work. First, I checked our joint bank account. Just as I suspected, half of it was gone. Transferred out just an hour before she told me. She wasn't just going to Raymond. She was funding him. She must have thought I wouldn't notice for days. That was fine. It made the next step even easier. My first call wasn't to a friend. It wasn't to my mom. It was to my lawyer, Mark. I said, "It's Stephen." She left. "She's with him." "Yes." She took the money. "I want you to file." "No, not for separation. For divorce. Site abandonment. And freeze everything. Everything with my name on it, anyway. My second call was to my realtor. "Hey, Susan," I said. "It's Stephen." "Yes, about the lake house." "I know," I said. "We're still deciding." "Well, we are not." "I am. The offer stands. I want to close. No, not next month. This week. Pay in cash, whatever it takes to make it fast. It's just for me now." I hung up the phone. I looked at the BMW keys, still sitting on the counter. Dorothy was right about one thing. She said I was stable. What she mistook for boring was just strength, and she had just unburdened me from the one thing that was holding me back. I picked up the keys. They felt a whole lot lighter. You see, for years, I've been living my life in grayscale, trying to blend in, trying to be the stable husband she said she wanted. I was playing small, not because I was small, but because I thought it was what was required to keep the peace. With Dorothy gone, the peace was already there. It was time to add the color. The very next day, I drove to the private garage downtown, and that BMW X7, it looked even better than I remembered. The leather still had that new car smell. I sat in the driver's seat. It felt right. I didn't think about Dorothy. I didn't think about the surprise I'd planned. I just thought, this is a beautiful piece of engineering. And I drove it. I drove it straight to my new lake house. But here's the thing. The X7 was a dream car. Now that I was free, I realized I could have my dream car, too. So, the next week, I bought a 1988 Porsche 911 Carrera, guards red, a car with actual passion, with a soul, a car that's the complete opposite of boring. And that was just the start. I wasn't just unemployed rich. I'm an architect. I need to build. So, I took a significant portion of my payout and didn't just invest it, I activated it. I started my own high-end consulting firm, advising other tech startups on infrastructure and scalable design. I was my own boss, set in my own terms, working only on projects that genuinely excited me. The boring t-shirts and jeans? Gone. I hired a stylist, not to look flashy, but to look intentional. Tailored blazers, good watches, shoes that didn't come from a big box store. When you respect yourself, it shows. I hit the gym at the lake house. I mean, really hit it. The stress, the years of walking on eggshells, it all just melted away, replaced by a clarity I hadn't felt in a decade. I even started calling old friends, the ones who stopped coming around because, as one of them finally admitted, honestly, man, Dorothy was just a lot. We had barbecues at the new house. We took the Porsche out on the hill country roads. I was laughing. I was living. My quietness, she'd mistaken it for weakness. But it's not. It's focus. And for the first time in my life, that focus was 100% on me. Now, while I was busy building a new life, Dorothy was busy discovering the reality of the one she'd chosen. I didn't know all the details at the time, of course. I was busy. I was focused on the lake house, on my new firm, but the pieces came together later. See, while I was signing the closing papers on a glass-wall mansion, Dorothy was moving her designer suitcases into Raymond's cramped, one-bedroom apartment downtown, the kind of place where the sirens outside are louder than the TV inside. In her mind, I'm sure it was romantic. The successful, sophisticated woman, saving the tortured artist from himself. The two of them against the world. She arrived with the money she'd taken from our joint account. She probably saw it as their fresh start fund. A nest egg. Raymond didn't see a nest egg. He saw a payout. The fantasy she had built in her head, it must have dissolved in days. She found out pretty quickly that the lost recording contract wasn't a sad story of a misunderstood genius. It was a firing. He was fired for being unprofessional, for being unreliable, for being Raymond. The struggling artist was a lie she had told herself for years, and he was just smart enough to let her believe it. That passion she missed in me, she found it. It was a volatile, screaming rage he had when his bets didn't pay off. Because Raymond wasn't just broke. He was a manipulative, severe gambling addict. The money she brought, it wasn't for studio time. It wasn't for new equipment. It was for loan sharks. It was to pay off bookies. It was gone before her first week there was over. And when that money ran out, he didn't look at her with passion. He looked at her like, "What else you got?" Dorothy didn't leave me to be Raymond's savior. She left me to become his new bank account, his enabler, his next mark. And in just under 2 months, that bank account was about to be declared officially and very violently empty. So at the 2-month mark, the inevitable happened. Raymond ran out of Dorothy's money, and therefore he ran out of uses for Dorothy. He did what people like him always do. He disappeared. He didn't leave a note. He didn't pack his bags. He just left. Sometime in the middle of the night, he slipped out of the apartment, taking her remaining cash, her credit cards, and whatever small bit of jewelry she had left. He just vanished, leaving her to face the consequences of the life he had built. And the consequences were significant. This brings us to the crowd I mentioned at the beginning. You see, it wasn't a random mob. It was a collection of everyone Raymond had conned, all showing up at the same time, all looking for the person who was left holding the bag. First, there was the apartment building manager. Raymond hadn't just missed rent. He hadn't paid it a single time since Dorothy moved in. They were 2 months behind, and an eviction notice was being served, literally that night. Second, and this is the part that really shows his talent, were 2 burly men from a cash-for-title loan place. Raymond, it turns out, had taken out a high-interest loan on Dorothy's own car, the one she drove away from my house in, by forging her signature. The payment was defaulted, and they were there to get their money or repossess a vehicle. And the cherry on top, there was another woman. Apparently, Dorothy wasn't the only savior Raymond had on the line. He'd been conning this other woman at the same time. She had finally tracked him down to the apartment, furious, demanding to know where her money went. So, picture it. The manager is at the door with an eviction notice. The 2 repo men are in the parking lot, identifying her car. The other woman is storming up the stairs. It was a perfect storm of consequences. And Dorothy, my image-conscious wife, was standing right in the middle of it. They didn't see a victim. They saw an accomplice. They saw the only person left to blame. And they were all yelling at her. So, let's just analyze Dorothy's situation for a second. She's standing in a hallway that smells like stale beer, getting screamed at by 4 different people. She has no money. Her credit cards are gone. Her car, her last real asset, is being hooked up to a tow truck right in that moment. And she has an eviction notice in her hand. She is, to use her own word, completely ruined. She has no Raymond. She has no apartment. She has no car. She is not stable. When you're that deep in a hole, you don't think about pride. You don't think about image. You just think about survival. So where does she go? She can't go to her friends, the same ones she'd been bragging to about the passionate new life she was building with Raymond. The humiliation would be too much. She can't go to her family. They'd just say, "I told you so." No, in her moment of total desperation, she had only one thought. Me, good old boring, stable Stephen, the safety net she thought she'd left behind. In her mind, I was still in that suburban house. I was still sitting in my T-shirt, still coding, probably heartbroken and just waiting for the day she'd call. She expected me to be a wreck. She counted on it. She probably saw me as her one remaining move on the chessboard. She could show up, cry, apologize, tell me how horrible Raymond was, and stable Stephen would sigh, pay off her debts, and let her back in. Because I was predictable, right? So, with the last few dollars she had on a ride-sharing app, or maybe she just begged, I don't know, she called an Uber. She probably got in, shivering, smelling like her ruined life, and told the driver the address. My address. Or what she thought was my address. She was on her way back. She was coming back to the boring life she'd thrown away, expecting it to be waiting for her, exactly as she'd left it, like a museum exhibit. She must have felt a little bit of relief during that ride. She was going home. The nightmare was over. Stephen would fix it. The poor woman had no idea she wasn't going home. She was going to my home. And stable Stephen didn't live there anymore. The Uber pulled up, but the driver was confused. He slowed down, checking his GPS. This wasn't the suburban street Dorothy had put in. This was Lake Travis. This was a private drive. This was a street where the houses don't have numbers. They have names. "This is the address, ma'am," the driver said, pulling up to a massive set of electronic gates. Dorothy must have been completely lost. But then the gates, my gates, recognized the car's approach and slid open. The Uber rolled forward up a long, illuminated driveway and stopped in front of a house that looked like it was pulled from a design magazine. All glass and dark steel, glowing against the black water of the lake. She must have thought it was a mistake. But she got out. She had no other choice. And then she saw it. Through the massive floor-to-ceiling glass walls, she saw a party. It wasn't a rager. It was elegant. There was music, but it was jazz. There was laughter, but it was relaxed. There were people, dozens of them, all well-dressed, holding wine glasses, circulating. She recognized some of my tech friends, but they looked different. Successful. They were mixing with people she'd only ever seen in society pages of Austin Monthly. And then she saw me. I was standing near the fireplace, talking to a woman, an architect I was collaborating with on a new project. I wasn't a t-shirt. I was in a tailored navy blazer, dark jeans, holding a heavy glass of whiskey, and I was laughing, actually laughing. She must have been frozen. This was impossible. This world did not compute with the boring Stephen she had in her memory. She walked to the massive, pivoting front door and rang the bell. The music inside softened. I excused myself from the conversation and walked to the door. I assumed it was a late arrival. I pulled the door open, and there she was. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were red and puffy, streaked with mascara. Her serious coat was wrinkled, and she smelled faintly of desperation. We just stared at each other. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. I honestly felt nothing but a quiet surprise, like finding a forgotten item from a past life. She looked at my blazer. She looked past me at the party at my life, and I just smiled. A small, polite, genuine smile. "Stephen," she whispered like I was a ghost. "Hello, Dorothy," I said, my voice perfectly calm. And right at that moment, her face crumpled. The last bit of her composure just dissolved. The full force. Ugly cry sobs she'd been holding back all night finally broke free. She just broke. That single calm hello, for me, did what all the yelling from the apartment manager couldn't. It shattered her. "Stephen," she sobbed, lunging forward, trying to grab my blazer. "Stephen, Raymond's gone. He's gone." I instinctively took a small step back, just enough to be out of her reach. He took everything," she choked out, the words tumbling over each other. "He took all the money. They kicked me out of the apartment. My car. They took my car, Stephen. Please, please." She was babbling, her eyes wild with panic, looking to me as a solution. The stable Stephen she had abandoned was now the only person in the world who could fix this. And as she was pleading, I heard a car. It wasn't a guest car. It was a beat-up sedan, and it tore up my new driveway, slamming on its brakes right behind her Uber. The headlights pinned her against the bright light of my entryway. 2 men got out. It was the apartment manager and one of the loan sharks. They had clearly followed her. "There she is," the manager yelled, pointing right at Dorothy. "I told you she'd run. Where's Raymond? You owe us." Dorothy froze. She spun around, saw them, and then spun back to me, her face a mask of pure animal panic. This was it. This was the moment. She wasn't just asking for shelter. She was asking for me to take on her problems. She was asking me to fight her battles, to pay her debts, to clean up the mess she had so confidently walked out the door to create. I looked at her, crying and shaking on my multi-$1,000 slate doorstep. I looked at the angry men walking towards her, yelling. I looked at the mess, the chaos, the drama that she had brought to this beautiful, peaceful life I had built without her. And that calm, polite smile of mine, it returned. But this time, it was a little different. It wasn't just polite. It was satisfied. It was the smirk from the title. The smile of the man who just saw the final piece of a complex puzzle click into place. I stepped back, my hand on the handle of the massive door. "Dorothy," I said, and my voice was still quiet, but it cut through her sobs. "You said he needed you more than I did." I paused, letting my words hang in the air between us, between my world and her disaster. "It looks like you were right." And with that, I calmly closed the door. I heard her scream my name just one time, but the door was heavy, solid wood and steel. It's custom built. It seals very well. Inside, the jazz music swelled just a bit. I turned around, walked back to the bar to refresh my drink, and rejoined the party. So that was it. That was the last time I ever saw Dorothy in person. It's been over a year now. The party is long over. The divorce was efficient. My lawyer, Mark, is very good at what he does. The joint account she emptied, that was counted as her settlement. She got to keep the debt she'd accumulated with Raymond. The house, the cars, the firm, my firm, all of that was mine, secured long before she made her choice. My company is thriving. We're consulting on 3 major tech hub builds across the country. It turns out that my boring focus is exactly what people will pay millions for when they need a project built right. The lake house, it's a home now. It's not just glass and steel anymore. I met someone. Her name is Anna. She's an artist, a sculptor. She works with stone and reclaimed wood. She understands foundations. She says she loves my quiet intensity. She says my stability isn't boring. She says it's powerful. We're building together. As for Dorothy, I've heard things. You always do in a city this size. After that night, she had to call her parents. They drove in from Waco and picked her up. She's living with them now, back in her childhood bedroom. The PR career, that's over. Image is everything in that business, and hers is, well, I heard she's working as an administrative assistant at a dental office. She's paying off her debts, slowly. And Raymond? I heard he got arrested in Nevada about 6 months ago. Some check fraud scheme. He's irrelevant. He always was. He was just a symptom, a catalyst for a choice Dorothy was always going to make. She wanted passion. She wanted fire. She wanted the thrill. She didn't understand that fire. It doesn't build anything. It only destroys. It's architects, the boring ones, who build the skyscrapers. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm Steven, and this is Inspiration Seeker.